Welcome to the Sunday Readings channel. I am your host, the Sunday Reader, and it is October. And October means Halloween is coming up. So, in honor of Halloween, I'm going to do some scary stories, and we're going to start with the author of some of my all-time favorite scary stories and a collection of some of his best scary stories, Mr. Howard Phillips Lovecraft, better known to the world as H.P. Lovecraft. And this is Bloodcurdling Tales of Horror and the Macabre. And it is a collection of his short stories. And I guess you could, hey, there's Someday Kitty. Hey, Someday Kitty. There you go. All right, there you go. You just lay down and get comfy. That's all you do. Just lay down and get comfy. Anyway, but moving right along. Maybe Someday Kitty here will help to alleviate some of the fright, which you will no doubt experience when you hear about some of these great stories of terror and suspense from Mr. Lovecraft. Now, of course, this book contains his most famous story, which will be the Call of Cthulhu. And the Call of Cthulhu is a supernatural mystery story. It's a supernatural detective thriller of sort. And this young man, his uncle passes away, and among his effects, he discovers a trunk which contains the starting point for the mystery about a Cthulhu cult, or however you wish to pronounce it yourself. But he starts to investigate, and during the course of his investigations, he discovers that in the South Pacific somewhere there is a critter by the name of Cthulhu who is sleeping, and every now and again he I don't know, wakes up kind of, and people in the world who are sensitive, I would say, maybe telepathic or Asper type people, are in tune with him, and they can see his brain, his thoughts, and that has a tendency to drive people mad. And that is what kicks off the whole story for the uncle. And there's weird cult rites in the swamps of Louisiana. There's I mean, it's a globe spanning story. I mean, it's a very well crafted story, and it tells a story of the type of which we've become very familiar with. But at the time, it was kind of a groundbreaking type of story, and a groundbreaking theme. And the theme is basically that humanity, it doesn't matter. We are really low in the pecking order of the universe, because beings such as Cthulhu are way so far above us that we are as amoeba, so to speak. But anyway, but it is if you've never read it, it is an excellent read. It's a fun read. It's a very good story. And one of the things you need to remember is a lot of the tropes, plots, and that sort of thing that riddle our fiction today have their starting point with Mr. Lovecraft and his contemporaries in the 20s and 30s. The modern science fiction story that we're comfortable with, we're familiar with, we're aware of, really have their start there. And Lovecraft was one of the pioneers of that. So, Call of Cthulhu, excellent story. Wonderful a supernatural sci-fi mystery tale. And there's also The Shadow Out of Time, which is about a gentleman who one day he just collapses, and when he regains consciousness, he has forgotten how to be a human being. And oh wow, he has forgotten how to be a human being. So years later, of course, he wakes up and he's back to the guy before he passed out. The only difference is that this guy he's plagued with nightmares, and he tells his children about it. And one of his sons is an archaeologist. He goes out on an archaeology expedition, and he finds a place that is eerily similar to some of the things that were described to him by his father from his nightmares. And his father flies out to the place, shows up at the dig, and is confronted by the fact that his nightmares probably weren't nightmares at all. And that is The Shadow Out of Time, which, again, I'm not doing it justice, but it is a really excellent story. Very well told. The plot line and the conclusion is really disturbing, and and as I said, it fits in so well with the type of writing that Lovecraft did. Probably the next best story in this is The Color Out of Space, and I say that knowing full well that The Color Out of Space is one of those stories that is really unique in that I don't think anyone has ever done anything like it since, even though many of its aspects, many of its conventions that it created, that it set up, we see in other stories. The way that the color is discovered is an asteroid lands in a farmer's field. It breaks open, releases the alien entity, which we see and is only represented in the world, in our world, as a color. And this color, or this creature, literally absorbs life. It absorbs the life force from the area surrounding it, to the point where the farm eventually becomes known by the locals as the blasted heath, because nothing will grow there. Things along the edge of it, animals and plants that are not in the dead zone, so to speak, they take on very weird aspects. The trees glow a strange color at night. The animal life is mutated. It would be similar to the effects of radiation, genetic damage, that sort of thing. And it's all uncovered as a man who works for the Public Works Department of a big city, Arkham, Massachusetts, is speaking with one of the neighbors because they're going to build a water reservoir that is going to be right on top of the blasted heath. So this area is contaminated with this color, which, according to the neighbor, there's still at least one of the little globs or little eggs that was never discovered. and is believed to have been in the family well, in the well of the family farm. But anyway, and that is a really, really creepy and disturbing tale. There are others. This book is, as I said, this book is filled with really good creepy tales of supernatural horror, including The Shadow over Innsmouth, which is about a young man who's doing basically an Ancestry.com crawl and visits a town called Innsmouth and discovers that maybe there's a couple of branches of his family tree that really need some pruning, so to speak. The same thing can be said for the Rats in the Walls, which is another good one. It's about a man who goes back to his ancestral home in Britain, only to discover that there's a reason why his ancestor fled the place and never spoke of it, and tried to hide his connection to the whole thing. That leads to some truly horrific events. Maybe you should just let the past, stay the past, so to speak. There's the Thing on the Doorstep, which is about a young man who makes a bad marriage, and in kind of a truly unique way. Things do not go very well for him. And the ending of that, the storyline for that is also it's another one of those which, when you read it, you're going to say, wow, I've seen this many times. This is where it had its origin. This is where a lot of these things, which are so commonplace today, Lovecraft and his friends are the people who came up with a lot of these, like let's see, we did Thing on the Doorstep, Color Out of Space, Shadow of Time, Shadow over Innsmouth. There's let me see, let me cover this. The Dunwich Horror, which is alien human hybrid kind of type story. So I mean, again, this is, like I said, I'm kind of underselling these things, as I normally do, because I guess I'm just not really very good at this. But anyway, this is as I said, but there are all kinds. And this book in particular, if you have never read any of Lovecraft's work, this is a great place to start. This is the book that you want to start with. It really is. Let's see, The Haunter of the Dark. That is another one. A fellow, he goes into there's this old church that he sees from his window, and he wants to investigate it. He investigates it and discovers that there's, like I said, things that you should just leave them alone. Just, don't even bother. Curiosity, unfortunately, I'm just going to say this. Curiosity kills the cat. The Whisper in the Darkness. The Whisper, the best way to describe Whisper in the Darkness is a fella gets catfished. Back pre-internet catfishing by alien critters. So that's a good one. Pickman's Model. That's another good one. In the Vault. That's a more kind of pedestrian type story. I mean, it's not really, but it's still good. I mean, there's still a lot of enjoyment to be had. But this book right here, excuse me, owner, there you go. Bloodcurdling Tales of Horror and the Macabre by The Best of H.P. Lovecraft. It's well worth your time. Please like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and good day.